14th of February. Love. Valentine's Day, right? I believe. Yeah. I think about my sweetheart. I think also about other people I love. Not just my sweetheart. I have not been online on YouTube much after the summer. Had to sort a lot of shit around the house. Problems with the seller, documents, etc. All in the last minute. Cost a shitload of money and a shitload of attention. And at the same time, I had a few times trouble with YouTube, and I notice now, today, that from last 2-3 months I now see for the first time some reactions, and for some reason now I can see them. I don't know why. Anyways, as I decided for this year, I will continue making videos. I will try to make it better, also with a new microphone, hopefully for a better sound quality, but still raw, unedited. I don't give a shit about looks and appearances. It's about the message, and that message, my message, is that we should avoid World War III. I'm not anti-war, I'm pro-peace. Pro-peace. Really. There's a big difference. Because if you are pro-peace, that means you want to be proactively promoting peace. If you are anti-war, then you just accept that there is war, and you will just accept that you keep fighting it. I think that Mother Teresa, who said these famous words, is right about that. It is a different attitude. And for what? Since at least 9/11, I follow world news, and I've seen how we became more and more corrupt and unreliable, and eventually that will lead to instability, because the others cannot trust us. You cannot trust our word. Yes, your word, my word. You cannot trust it because what? We let our so-called leaders constantly violate our word. If I sign a treaty on behalf of you and me, whatever document, whatever contract, but you allow me to sign that for you, and I sign but don't deliver, that also reflects on you. Yes, that reflects on you. That reflects on me. I'm not a vlogger, I'm not a blogger, I do this without making a script. I just want to basically give my opinion about it. And I want that opinion to be heard. And the only way I am sure that it's forever, because they use it against you as well in the court of evidence. The only way to be sure that it is forever out there is by digitalizing it. Just like any other diary from the years leading to the World War II. Those diaries, or the diary of Anna Frank, or other written material from that period about people who tried to resist, who tried to warn, who tried to be reasonable, who tried to talk for peace instead of wars. This is the same. This is absolutely the same. My little diary in the madness of the day. But it didn't start out like that. However, it became like that because, let's face it, my little project here, as I keep saying, gets threatened by this world politics as well. And I want to protect it just like someone else would like to protect their children. I want to protect these dogs just like someone else wants to protect their children. So yes, I'm worried. I am worried about cost of living. I'm worried about these energy prices. I am worried just like anyone else. But unlike anyone else, I keep saying what is needed, and that is a full-out revolt. And that doesn't need to be bloody. That doesn't need to be bloody. But let's face it, let's be honest, let's look in the history. Usually revolts get a bloody answer from whom? From the government. At some point, then, those who revolt, they become bloody too. And that's my worst nightmare, my worst fear. My worst fear. Yeah, a civil war. A civil war. And I think all this shit is leading up to it. Just think of it. Millions upon millions of displaced people by NATO conflicts. So, Ukraine, North Africa, Middle East, etc. And they are all in Europe as refugees. At some point, when those countries are no longer under the yoke of NATO, then yes, it is very possible, very likely, plausible, that those people will turn against where they live now, in Europe. Yes. Then you have already an invading army that only needs to get supplied. But with our current status in the Ukraine, is it so far-fetched to think that a lot of that shit that proven disappears on those black markets, a lot of the money that disappears, etc., plus a decade at least of training children, like in Hitlerjugend camps, all sorts of stuff, is it far-fetched to think that that conflict will spill over everywhere in Europe? Everywhere. Because a lot of sides have some grains with the other to pick. People don't forget just like that. I grew up in Holland. I was born in 66. So that is what? 21 years after the war. I was about 1.5, 2 years when my mother married a Dutch guy. So that's 22, 23 years after the Second World War. And the Dutch in that village still hated the guts of the Germans. Like, really hated the guts of the Germans. So it was not an easy youth, I can tell you. But it learned me something very important in all this. Besides the fact how ugly people can be, how xenophobic and how unforgiving about things that never happened to them they can be, you know. They can be very unforgiving. So yes, I think it is very likely, very possible, very plausible that all this will accumulate at some point in one big brawl between all sorts of factions. And when you then think about the Netflix series, the Tribes of Europe, this futuristic, or what's it called? Clans of Europe.
Hello.
This futuristic view for Europe. Yeah. They never said in that series what was the cause. But I can see something like this being the cause. Yes. And that nations, again, old grudges will come up again, and everyone thinks they are justified to settle a score. For a long time I also thought I was justified to settle a score with the Dutch. Sometimes even I still feel like that, to settle a score with the Dutch for the traumas of my youth. That I can still feel to this day. And they are nothing in comparison, to the traumas those Donbass, Luhansk children have, those Ukrainian children have on both sides. Donbass, Luhansk is also Ukraine. It's nothing in comparison to the traumas the families suffer when they are here with their children in Europe to find out that your older brother, 15-year-old, just died on the front. That your 15-year-old child just died there on the front. How much hatred does that create? A lot of hatred. I didn't tell my story just now like a sad story. No, it's an example, a live, living example of something I experienced that makes me understand very well, very well, what that kind of pain, trauma, and eventually hatred leads to. And yes, that is my worst nightmare. To see that kind of shit happening to other kids, to Ukrainian kids later, somewhere on a schoolyard to be bullied, or Russian kids, or any kid. Pro peace. But I will try to be shouting in that desert and keep saying that it is wrong. I keep repeating, if you support something openly, very openly, support something like fascism and Nazism, then you are a fascist and a Nazi. I keep repeating, if they not even consider your referenda, Dutch people, your referenda to be anything else than a little crying child in his room with the door closed. Go have your little tantrum there. Go ahead, have your little referenda. Makes you feel good. No, we don't care, we're not gonna listen. Not even if you are 90%, we're not gonna listen. We do exactly what we want. Last time I checked, elected means that you are what? A representative of us, the people, right? They behave, however, like little kings and barons and think that they are the ones who are rightfully ruling. And that's when my anarchistic nature comes in play, because I will never accept a ruler. Never. I will only accept a democracy, a freedom of people to choose their representatives and the right to remove them if they fail to deliver. Yeah. And the only way you can remove them is what? If you have a fucking gun. It's that fucking obvious. Pardon my language there. But that will also not so easily change. Unedited. It will stay unedited. I don't give a shit.